One of the harshest managerial sackings in Championship history. Chris Wilder has been sacked by Sheffield United's ownership, and now they are looking for a new coach. And Chris Wilder said he's disappointed, but he respects the ownership group, and he will always leave the door open as a Sheffield man. Now, Chris Wilder, to be honest, I think that he knows that this is his ceiling. I don't think he's going to get a job any higher than Sheffield United. No Premier League club in a million years would look at him. And would a top-end Championship club look at him? I'm not so sure, to be honest. It's with Chris Wilder, the job that he's done at Sheffield United has been fantastic. He's always done a good job at Sheffield United, but in other Championship jobs, he has struggled massively. But let's just have a look at where it all went wrong for Sheffield United. Now, not a lot went wrong because realistically, they got 92 points in the Championship season without the deduction. 90 points most seasons other than the last 2 seasons. That would literally be enough every single season to get promoted. And as well as that, a lot of it would be enough to actually go ahead and pick up the title. So in that regard, you have to say that Chris Wilder has been very harshly sacked. I really do feel like he's a victim of his own success, because if you look at the way that Sheffield United kind of were during the season, during the majority of the season, they were absolutely smashing it. Yeah, they weren't winning games convincingly, but they weren't playing the best football, but they were getting through games every single time. It was this where it really fell apart, kind of towards the back end of the season, in that one tricky period where, at the end of the day, that was the downfall of Chris Wilder. Them games, the Oxford loss, the Millwall loss, and the Plymouth loss. Them 3 losses in a row was the absolute downfall of Chris Wilder. And then the nail in the coffin was at Burnley. But you take away that bit of form where they fell apart, and generally Sheffield United were pretty good. They were comfortable in most games. They were solid at the back. The thing that you can say about them was, going forward, they weren't exactly the most exciting team to watch. They didn't play the best football. They were very reliant on Gus Hamer, who really contributes to that Sheffield United side. And as I say, it all really fell apart at the back end of the season. And you're up against 2 super teams. That's the thing. You're up against 2 teams that you just couldn't afford to make any mistakes about. Burnley, they lost 2 matches all season. They went God knows how many games at the end of the season without losing a match. You had Leeds, who had an unbelievable attack going forward. The fullbacks are so good for Leeds. They got so much quality in that side. It was always going to be such a difficult task for Chris Wilder to be able to actually remain ahead of those teams. It looked like they could have done it, but it was such a difficult job, as I say, for Chris Wilder to do that. And we'll just have a look at Chris Wilder. This is where I worry about Chris Wilder going forward, because I think what job is he going to get next, and where is he going to go next? Because he's done a fantastic job at Sheffield United. The problem is, in his other 2 Championship jobs at Middlesbrough, he didn't do great, to be honest. He lasted about a year in the Middlesbrough job and ended up getting sacked. It didn't work out in Middlesbrough. And Watford was pretty much a bit of a disaster as well, the way that he was talking. I know Watford's a bit of a clown joke club to manage, but obviously things didn't work out at Watford as well. So you look at his other 2 jobs in the Championship, they haven't really worked out in the slightest. But then with Chris Wilder, you've got to kind of talk about the transfer business and the way that Sheffield United was set up going into the season. We'll just start off with the outgoings, and this is where you really feel like Chris Wilder has been done kind of dirty by the Sheffield United ownership, because Sheffield United weren't expected to really be in the automatic promotion race. They were expected to be up there, but I think people were very surprised at how Sheffield United managed to maintain their incredible form until obviously the back end of the season. And that's why I say that Wilder, I do feel like, is a victim of his own success in that right, because maybe if they kind of stumbled their way into the playoffs and kind of just they weren't as convincing in the way that they were playing in terms of the points that they got, and the way that they fell apart at the end, maybe Sheffield United ownership would look at things differently. Because you look at the players that Sheffield United lost, they literally lost their full first team. Basically, they were going into the season with very little in their squad. They lost Archer, Asula, both the strikers. You lost Trusty, who played a lot. Jayden Bogle, of course, went to Leeds. You got a lot of players that went in a free. You got McBurney. These are like the old guard that have been around at Sheffield United for years. They're Chris Wilder's guys as well. These are guys that are trusted by Wilder and trusted by Sheffield United. Obviously didn't work out in the Premier League, but it's such a big gap between the Championship and the Premier League, as we know. They have McBurney, then obviously Baldock went, and obviously rest in peace to Baldock. You've got Max Lowe as well. You've got Ollie Norwood. You've got, let's say, this is all the old guard at Sheffield United that all left them. So this is an overhaul. It's a complete overhaul that Chris Wilder had to deal with right here. And they spent a little bit of money. They didn't really spend a lot of money, to be honest. Like, they brought Tom Cannon in January. That didn't work out. But you look at that, other than that, the signings that they made in the summer were all frees, loans, and just very low transfer fee transfers, like Harrison Burrows, Michael Cooper, and they all worked out to be very good signings. And look, they brought in a lot of loan players. So Sheffield United have got a serious job on next season. We'll discuss the ownership and the way that they'll go next season in a second. But obviously they had brought in a lot of loan players, and all them players are going to go back. So they're going to have to recruit heavily yet again, because you count it up, there's like, what, 6 loans there, 7 loans that Sheffield United brought in over the course of the season, and they're now going to have to replace all them players going back. You look at it now that maybe Gus Hamer might be on his way as well. You're in a situation with Sheffield United where a lot is going to be a very, very busy summer, and this new manager's coming in. They are going to have to get right. Now, what we're saying with Chris Wilder kind of being very, I feel like saying, being very grateful and saying that he's leaving the door open to Sheffield United. Of course, he loves the club. Of course, he's going to leave the door open. But then you also feel like, where would Wilder go from here? Is he going to get a better job than Sheffield United? In my opinion, he's not. So I feel like this just isn't the end of Chris Wilder at Sheffield United. I think they're going to struggle to replace him. They're going to struggle, and they're going to end up getting rid of their manager, and maybe Wilder might come back in as like an interim manager and then potentially even get the job again. Like, that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest with Chris Wilder, right? And then just looking at the managerial odds in terms of who could be replacing Chris Wilder, Gary O'Neill was getting spoken about a lot, but it's come out that apparently they're not looking at Gary O'Neill, they're looking to go in a different direction. Now, if you think they're looking to maybe go in a different direction, you don't think they're going to be going for like a Sean Dyche. I think Sean Dyche could be alright, he could be a decent appointment, but then it's kind of like similar football to Chris Wilder, because I think a big reason why Sheffield United probably got rid of Wilder was the football that they were playing overall, which, as I say, it wasn't the most attractive brand of football. It was very much get the job done, and performances weren't the best, but they were getting through games, and that only got them so far. Now, I feel like maybe Sheffield United wants to take a different direction in the terms of football that they're playing, which, if you're going to appoint a Sean Dyche, that's kind of a very similar style, which I do rate Sean Dyche as a manager. I rate Chris Wilder as a manager as well. But the other managers that are getting linked, Gary O'Neill, second favourite, I think he's already been taken out of the running by the sounds of it from what Sky Sports have said. Steve Cooper, Ruben says they're not exactly the most inspiring names in terms of a manager that's really going to go and get you promoted. I mean, we've got Gareth Southgate, and there's no chance in hell he's going. Like, I feel like Sheffield United might go for maybe like a left field appointment with this managerial role, just due to the fact that I just don't see these names actually going to Sheffield United. So it's going to be very interesting. As I say, the pressure on the ownership now, where if they don't get this right, this appointment, and things go wrong at the start of next season, a lot of frustration from Sheffield United fans will be turning towards the ownership. And that's what happens when you get rid of a manager that's literally an absolute legend at Sheffield United, done an unbelievable job there over the spells that he's been there, and managed there for so long, and he's a Sheffield guy, so popular with the fans. You are setting yourself up. You could be absolutely shooting yourself in the foot, basically. If you get things wrong now going forward, you are absolutely shooting yourself in the foot. So that is very concerning for Sheffield United ownership going forward, because realistically, as I say, that a lot of this squad, you look, maybe Hamer could be on his way, Sousa could be on his way, Hodzic, we don't know, Michael Cooper, a couple of these players, Harrison Burrows, a couple of these players could move on, especially with Wilder. These guys obviously very much appreciated Wilder and very much, you know, they were fans of Wilder, these players, and then they're thinking, do they want to stay? And the new manager comes in, do they want to stay at Sheffield United? Especially Hamer, he could be off to the Premier League, Sousa potentially, rumours. But these players here are players that could move on and then put Sheffield United in further trouble. And I think, you know, we saw it in the playoff final. By the way, you know, he was one game off the Premier League. And let's be real, if Sheffield United did get to the Premier League, they would probably get absolutely battered every week, and Wilder might go anyway. Like, realistically, that's probably the case because there's such a big gap between the Championship and the Premier League. Sheffield United fans saw that last season. But we saw when Hamer went off injured in the Championship playoff final, the game absolutely changed. Sunderland got on top in that game once Hamer was off the pitch, and you could really see, and you felt a real shift once Hamer went off the field. Will he be there next season? I don't think he will. I think a Premier League club has to come in for Gus Hamer. He was a Championship Player of the Year. He was absolutely unbelievable. Then you're looking at it like that. Then you've got a new manager coming in to a team that, again, you need an absolute overhaul in players. They're going to get some money for potentially players if they do sell them. They've got loans to replace. They've got frees to replace. They've got so much activity that they need to be doing. And Wilder's proved last season that he can deal with an overhaul of players. He can have what's thrown at him and still overcome it and bring a real togetherness in Sheffield United. Will that togetherness be there the same way that it was under Chris Wilder? I'm not sure it will be. So let me know, what do you think about sacking in the comment section down below? If you're Sheffield United fan, let me know who would you want as your manager. What do you think of the sacking? For me, I wouldn't have sacked him. I think it's very harsh to get 92 points without the deduction. Enough points to get you promoted normally. I think that is harsh on Chris Wilder, and I think that's my overall conclusion of that. And it's, for me, with Chris Wilder going forward, I don't think he'll be in the job for a bit, and I think maybe he could end up back at Sheffield United within the next few years, in my personal opinion. Because honestly, I think he's left the door open for that, and he obviously loves Sheffield United as a football club. So let me know what you think of that sacking in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like down below. If you're a Sheffield United fan, please do hit that subscribe button as well. It'd be very greatly appreciated. It takes 1 second to hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. and I'll see you in the next one.